Uh,
live.
Okay. Awesome, yeah. So I was just watching the match before this. I think today Gujarat is playing Delhi. So it was an interesting match. But from right of the match, I jumped to this conversation. And today's going to be fun conversation was very different from what we have done so far. We have spoken to people generally like, from some subject that we know of. But today is something which is very different from what we both know, Krishna and I. So Gaurav, thanks for doing this, and we'll sort of talk more about Gaurav. But Gaurav, just to sort of get started, I want to ask the first question: who's your
Sure.
favorite cricketer of all time? Like if you could
Who
pick
is
up one cricketer favorite of all time, आपका
all time? It is Rahul Dravid for me.
Rahul Dravid, and why Rahul Dravid?
Yeah, Rahul Dravid, I'm actually very much inspired by his personality. I'm kind of a person who, work behind the scene. Just like I was mentioning a little while ago that I don't use social media. So that also means that I don't want to highlight myself that much. I like to do things behind the scene and more of process driven person. I'm not trying to make myself up, but that's how I
Yeah.
am. So more of the personality that has really influenced me. And of course, talking about the kind of cricketer he is, and he should be getting all the respects from all around the world, of course.
Right, interesting. I think Rahul Dravid is one of the underrated, not underrated, but I would say under the wraps, right? He doesn't come across heavily on social media. He doesn't do much of brand deals and all that. He's very low key. And okay, one more question before we start. So, right, I think there is this insane craze of Thala, right, for every IPL season. And since you have
Exactly.
been part of the, scene very closely, can you also describe, let's say, as a somebody who's part of the IPL, what does this Thala madness look like from inside?
See, most of the time when MS Dhoni was batting, I was at the studio and I was holding the mic. And to be able to, call the game when MS Dhoni is batting, first of all, we are fans of cricket.
Yeah,
Secondly, we are commentators, experts, etc. But first of all, we are fans, and it is a moment for me to remember, of course. But what happens that every time MS Dhoni comes to the bat, first thing that you don't see ad break after the wicket. That's for
yeah,
sure. So kind of we get kind of charged up as a not just as commentators, producers, the directors, everyone says, look, MS Dhoni is batting, you got to speak about him. It's kind of sometimes becomes a pressure as well, because something else happening at the other end, but you have to say it from Dhoni's perspective. I remember one incident in IPL in 2023 when I was not at the com box. Fortunately, one of my friends were at the com box, and Sunil Gavaskar asked MS Dhoni for an autograph
okay,
on his shirts. And so what happened is that one of my fellow commentators, a very good commentator, he said that, look how great Sunil Gavaskar is. We have already seen him very grounded person. He is a legend of the game, but he still had to do this, or I have to say that he loved doing all these things. Then the director slowly, you know, what happened is kind of instructed him that no, 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 you got to speak about Dhoni, not about Gavaskar. This is Dhoni's day. So it's kind of become a pressure sometime, but we love it.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a superb start. So, Krishna, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. So I'm just going to start with what maybe every audience would want to listen, right? What was that moment when you realized that this is what you want to do in life, right? And how did you get into it then? Two-folded question.
It's a very, it looks like a very easy question to answer, but what happens is that in a world where you have, what I'm kind of a person who is sort of, I don't like to mention that word, but that's a word that probably, or phrase that probably will describe me a little bit. That is jack of all trades. So I do everything a little bit, not perfect at all. Any of this, but I do it, and have fun doing it. First of all, I'm a big fan of cricket. I love cricket. I love watching cricket. I love the technical side of it. And I also like the fact that we come from a background, like Odisha is a background which has not produced plenty of cricketers, but we are mad, mad fans of cricket. And we have our heroes. Unfortunately, we have not produced cricketers. That's a different thing. And so what happens is cricket always came very close to me. So I was even the captain of my college, was the captain of my university. So I played cricket, so I know cricket almost like I can say little, not that much. But then what happens is that once I saw myself that I won't be able to make it to that level. You don't have the skill to make it to the international level, of course. uh, it's very tough in India, or even to domestic level or whatever. Then you decided to be very close to that game, and one way of being very close to the game is to talk about the game. And I think that's where my tertiary skill, which is also writing, I have not mentioned that, but I also write songs, I also write stories, I do a little bit of music. So that part of me almost helped me to become a commentator.
Fancy, fancy. I think it makes sense, yeah. But like, so see, you come from a degree of mathematics, right? So how did you enter into this ecosystem? Like, if you could help people understand, right? There'll be a lot, and I think this is like a crazy aspiration, at least for Indian people, right? Commentating for like Indian matches, IPL, etc. Right? How did you pave that path in? Because your field of study was completely different, right? And you've chosen something completely different. How did you navigate this path for yourself?
What happens is when I was taking mathematics honors in +3 my part of the world, they call it +3. So what happens is that I come from a college where cricket is very very popular. So we are very close to Odisha Cricket Association. So what happened is that I did have the passion, because the passion actually not just came from being a cricketer. Also it came from the fact that my brother used to watch plenty of India versus Australia versus England matches, the Ashes and etc. And back then, with Channel 9 commentary, which was telecasted in Star Sports. So what happens is I look at the commentary and said, "Wow, this is what I can do. This is what I can do. I do have the skill." I mean, I keep on doing that. So I did a plenty of ground commentary early on. Ground commentary is where you are
Oh,
almost like saying it, almost like entertaining people. But I
yeah,
broke
yeah.
the maybe make the broke the train there, and I said, no, I won't be entertaining the people. I'll be doing it exactly like they do it in television. So I can proudly say that I'm one of the maybe the first one from my state to say it in a very professional way. The rest of the ground commentators were doing it like entertainment. They're boosting the confidence of the batsman. They're becoming the cheerleaders of the game. So I state that the long on fielder should be at mid on and not long on. So I talked about the technical aspect of the game, and that's how people liked me. So that's how people started taking me, because they found the differences in me. So I got a plenty of chances for the ground commentary, and luckily I was picked up by Odisha Cricket Association for doing some commentary with them, and then the story continued, of course.
Got it.
Nice.
Okay. So there was like a foundation from like early days when you were playing cricket yourself, and then you did a lot of commentary for the your own ground back at home, right? That's how the story started. And
So,
then
in fact, you
eventually
should,
one
Gaurav,
thing.
tell us your first story. The first story where you remember that, you hosted a cricket event. What was it like?
The first one was actually I was very small. I don't remember that much. Very small. There's a cricket match going on in my locality, and I picked up the mic, and everyone almost got surprised that wow, this guy can speak, because we are not a land where the English speaking has been very easy, to be very honest.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
and I also come from a like Odia medium background, which is not English medium, definitely. Uh, so
Yeah. So,
so
first
it
language was Odia, like
love
not
my
English.
English first of all. They didn't know about cricket that much. They said, "Oh, this guy is
Uh,
fluent enough." Not like the most fluent guy, but still he's
mm.
fluent. So
Nice.
people started loving
Yeah.
me, and then what happened? I was doing my commentary in my college, where one of the officials of the Odisha Cricket Association was watching the game. He was the guest there. The treasurer of the Odisha Cricket Association was watching this game. This guy is doing good, and he called me and he talked to me and appreciated me in front of everyone while I was doing the post-match show. And he said, "Why don't you give that audition for the Odisha Premier League?" So I said, "All right, I'll do it." For some reason, I couldn't do, maybe for my exams, I remember. But then after that, they picked me up, and I was helped by so many people, I have to say, to be able to call this game for so long.
Yeah. And since we are talking about that first experience, Gaurav, can you talk about the first time when you got a chance to be a commentator in an IPL match? What was it like? Because IPL is a different scale, right? What was that first experience like for you?
I have to be very honest, and yeah, everyone will say they were nervous. They went. I was blank. I was absolutely blank. The plan was that I'll be holding the mic for the first time when my language was happening. I mean, it was like the first 1 to 5 overs, Gaurav will be doing the commentary. That was the plan. So,
Okay.
but what happened is at the last moment, the producer changed it. He said Gaurav will come second because what happens is first initial overs, people might not have any idea about what's going on because
Hmm.
slowly they'll be into Hindi, into English. So what happened is that I got this chance second. So I was kind of very much worried why I wasn't getting chances. So this 5 overs seems of 20 overs to me. So picked up the mic, was very excited, and I remember that I was calling singles like it was fours and sixes in those 5 overs till 5 to 10. I remember.
And
So
which
it
was
was
the
like
match by the way, Gaurav? किसका मैच था ये फर्स्ट वाला आईपीएल
it
का?
was a match between CSK and Gujarat Titans.
Oh wow, okay. Like a
Rashid
very
Khan
heavyweight
was the
team
wicket,
also.
and that was the first time I joined the combo. So it was a nice way of going, doing the doing the commentary when you see Ben Stokes got back to the pavilion. So I remember that moment.
Awesome. I think that will be like so memorable because first match between one of like two of the biggest franchise
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
So that can be like a super, as you said, right?
Yeah.
Most of the people will go blank, and that's very true because when you are put in such a situation where you just gotta like figure
I
out.
was very blank. I called my own people. I called my family straight away after, in between the match, after my first sting. I said, "Is it going okay?" And then everyone said, "Yeah, it's going fine." So I got the confidence and I continued, of course.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So one question, Gaurav, like while because we are already in the commentary box kind of a section, so do you have to kind of do player study, statistic study before you all kind of get into the commentary like box? What is the prep which you need to do as an individual before you kind of speak?
It's a very good question. What happens before the match, before one day of the match, that we actually were given the snippets. There's so many stats around, so many data, etc., about matchups. This batsman is good against this bowler or whatever it is. So we have plenty of data around available, and it was almost sent to us, each and every commentators, by the production unit. So we have our people, like there's so many good. You're talking about maths and how it is so good in this in this cricketing circuit now. So what happens is we do have our legends, as far as data is concerned. So they send those interesting data to us. But what is important is, even with the data that we have, even with the, like, producers will keep telling you in your years that, when suppose MS Dhoni came out, forget about MS Dhoni, so he's untouched. Let's say some other batsman, let's say Ajinkya Rahan has come out. The producer here will say, you know what, Gaurav, he has been out to leg spinners thrice now,
Uh,
continuously. So when he is on batting, and I have to pick up that line, I have to say, all right, Rashid Khan has come in. He's a leg spinner, and the reason why he has come in because Ajinkya Rahan has got out to the leg spinner thrice.
Ah,
So the producers helps us, but I think producer can't help you with the creative part of it. The
hmm.
way you mention those lines, like you make it a poetry kind of. Some commentators look like make it a poetry, like Ian Bishop,
like
for example.
Sidhuji does a lot. Sidhuji
Yeah,
also does it a lot, no?
Sidhuji makes it, maybe slightly weird, but still I have to say, because there's a lot of share of shairi. I like to be very blunt out there, but still,
Mm.
share of shairi. By poetic, it doesn't mean it has to be rhythmic or some kind of a
Mm.
rhyming.
Mm.
So I mean that you see the softer part of cricket when there is a Virat Kohli cover drive going on. If someone is saying it is poetry in motion, then you say it's poetry. So that's the kind of a poetry that I'm talking about. Like, for example, while Virat was playing RCB versus, I think it was, uh, um, I don't remember the opposition, but he did play a very good cover drive, and I was at the com box, and I did mention one line of famous uh, Odia poet, and that line is Sundara Truptira Abasada Nahi, Jete Dekutile Nua Distay. What this means is that the thing of beauty is joy forever. So these
Hmm.
things, with the technical aspect, it always adds something to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I and also, since we are on data topic, right, Gaurav? So can you talk us also about, like, let's say how sports team, right? Matlab, in any context, international, local teams, how are they leveraging data right now to sort of make decisions around, like, teams and stuff like that? Because as an audience, we always feel कि इसको क्यों नहीं खिलाया, उसको क्यों नहीं खिलाया, right? So what are those decisions behind the scenes that happens?
The two aspects of it. One is the audience aspect. Nowadays there are so many fantasy games going on,
Yeah.
and while picking up your team, there is data available. And I was associated with
Mm,
one of those companies where I was doing a lot of analysis. Is one of the experts of the fantasy game. So
right.
what happens is I say "Ki these are the players you might buy so that it will be profitable for you. But
Mm,
the other part of thing is while picking up a team, I mean I'm talking about the cricketer's point of view, the circuit's point of view. What happens is you don't just look into the data. Yes, you look into the data, but you also see the potential of the player. Like, for
mm,
example, you see Rohit Sharma giving Suman Gill plenty of chances because you know that Suman Gill one day will make it. And he has already made it. He's such a good player now. Just like MS Dhoni used to give so many chances to Rohit Sharma. And look where
mm,
he is, one of the greats of the game. So if you see the potential, you see some part of that greatness inside a player, then what you do is you say, forget about the stats. I'm going to take this man in the team and he's going to perform. So if he starts performing, it's good. So data driven, of course, but not only data driven. There's something more to it.
Makes sense. But like just to like add to this, right, Gaurav, if you're saying it's not data driven and it is heavily on gut at times, right? But then if you were to give me a scale of 100, how much is data driven and how much is gut? Do you have any idea on that kind of stats?
I think as far as because I played plenty of cricket as well in my state and whatever. Also, I know I was talking to the guy. So forget about the viewer's point of view or the commentator's point of view. Of course, commentary is gonna be data driven in future time. Commentary is going to be data driven. That is a different thing. But while picking up a team, I think it's more. Data is just 40% to me. 60% is you see the potential in that player, and it's kind of I'm being poetic again with kind of a battle between mind and heart, and you see that one player and you say, this player is looking good, he might go have got out, but that is a difficult situation where he batted out. Suppose for example a batter has scored some like 50 plus scores in the last 5 matches, but he's been run out in all those matches. Does that might have told you that this guy is not so good at running between the wicket, but maybe it is towards the last ball of the over, maybe towards the last over where he really had to jump for that extra run for the team. So data doesn't tell you everything. I still believe that
Makes sense.
cricket or any sport is bigger than just this data, these numbers. Once it becomes all about numbers, then it becomes very, machine driven, very robot kind of a thing. It won't be very sort of a this, that art of cricket or the art of sports will go away. Art is the key for me. And that's coming from a guy who has lived all his life talking about science.
yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So यार
So I just
गौरव
want.
एक क्वेश्चन. हाँ,
Okay,
sorry Krishna, you go on.
okay.
हाँ, so Gaurav, I don't know if you have worked in corporates or like like a corporate setup or startup setup earlier, but वहाँ पे mostly क्या होता है? Most of the time the decisions are taken on data, right? Like predominantly, and like data again has its own biases, own challenges that comes with it. So how would you recommend, people working in corporate, trying to, balance between, let's say, intuition and data while trying to figure out is this person right fit for our company or not? Do you have some, insights or ideas to share on
Yeah,
that
I'm
part?
not an expert on the topic, but I can tell you one thing that you're mentioning about some corporate companies, like whatever the way they operate, they see the data. You were talking about mediocre companies, I believe, or the companies that might be top at some level, but might not be that great globally. You look at Google,
Hmm.
you look at Microsoft. They are not just going after data. They will not
Hmm.
leave an employee when they see potential there. I can guarantee you. So it is happening in a world, in a world where things are growing. I'm talking about my country, India, where things are growing, where at the developing stage. So we want result at any cost. So this is where it happens. But slowly, once you see the country's development at a certain level, then you see people being very relaxed about where they are, and you see more number of leaves. Like US has now decided that, as far as I know, that the number of leaves or the hour will be shorter for the employees out there.
Yeah,
On the other hand, Indians are, there's some kind of advice from some experts back, saying that you need to have more number of hours put in the office. But it doesn't really make sense. So you know what I'm talking about.
yeah. No, makes sense, makes sense. And I think it becomes very contextual after a point. Matlab, what, let's say, work for somebody might not work for us. And
Yeah.
when we try to copy those things, that can completely backfire. So I think
Yeah.
that is also a point I think the company should remember. Hmm. Yeah,
Exactly.
Krishna.
I wanted to, in my case, I want to come back to the cricket field, right? Whenever you're on a field, the energy is so high, right? So how do you manage, like, how do you manage that crowd? Like any, like event happens at least for 3 hours, right? Minimum. How are you managing that energy? How do you all internally rationalize to make sure that, if you're opening, what kind of lines should be used? In the mid section, what would happen? Towards the end, what happens? I'm sure there's a script planned around it, right? But like, how do you all mentally manage that energy level for this long and make sure it's not dropping, audience is engaged, etc.?
Yeah, first of all, I've done most of my commentary in studios. I'm talking about the broadcast commentary. Yeah, so I IPL most of the time in studios. So first of all, I've done commentary in some domestic matches in Odisha where we have got full houses. There are people around watching the game. Of course, that's a different feeling. Actually, just like cricketers, commentators also, love seeing the crowd. When there is more number of
Hmm.
people, you get excited, and this brings out the best in you. You see the great Ravi Sastry at the toss, and imagine no people around. I won't see Ravi shouting at all. So, so it has to be about the people. So
The
we
crowd is
love.
giving you all the energy.
Yes. So it always acts in for, not in against, not against us. So what happens is that while he was doing commentary in studios, also, there's some kind of information, so some special match. Let's say one match between RCB and CSK happening in Chinnaswamy. It's gonna be full house, an equal amount of supporters from of RCB, and of course of MS Dhoni as well, because wherever MS goes, he takes away 50% or 60% of the supporters with him. There's no two ways about it. So what happens in games like this is that also we get instructions from our producers to make it look like an El Clasico if it is not. So yeah, so
Hmm.
we have to be, kind of like energized, and for that we have to be true to ourselves. We can't fake it there. You have to be very true to yourself, and after being true, you see, a perfect example of that will be, I say, the great Ian Bishop from West Indies. What he does is that he knows when to, you know make that game go to level 1, level 2, level 3.
Hmm.
He knows everything. He knows how to shift gears. He's the Virat Kohli of commentary for me, because he knows how to shift the gears. Because he doesn't shout when you don't need one, and he shouts the most when you need one. You remember when the T20 World Cup final in 2016? Remember the name, the when Carlos Brathwaite did those 4 sixes back to back, and the same guy will do the toss and will
Yeah.
see as simple as anyone. So he doesn't have just one way of saying it. So that is how a good commentator
Hmm.
should be. He should be, very flexible with his level of energies. To be honest.
Hmm. I think that's interesting. And Gaurav,
Yeah.
like generally, let's say as a commentator, how do you guys, let's say, match after match, how do you guys get some feedback? कि, okay, last match ka audience ka, how was the reaction? Let's say the digital audience, not the, in the stadium. And
Yeah.
how do you guys incorporate the feedbacks coming from the production team?
That's the thing about streaming and not broadcasting. Once it is streamed,
Okay.
what happens is that you get data very soon. You get the number of people. You know the ages of those people. You know the genders. You know what time they logged in. and what time they logged out, how much time they spend there. So everything is there. So it's kind of like whatever you do today, you kind of get noticed tomorrow that these are the number of people that watched this stream, that liked it. So it becomes easier now. In broadcasting, it is always about TRP. But in streaming, TRP doesn't give you the full data. Now in streaming, every kind of data available, everything, like from A to Z, who is logging in, from where he is logging in, gender, as I just mentioned, everything. Did he like it when MS Dhoni was batting, and he come back to watch some football match between Manchester United and Manchester City after that? So not definitely not like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair. I think that's a yeah, because I think it's a different ways of looking at data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, One question, Gaurav, since you also mentioned about a lot of apps which are coming in the betting space, right? Where people can build a team and the rewards sound supremely crazy, right? The kind of rewards they're giving out,
The small
all this.
correction is fantasy game and not betting.
Okay, yes, let's call it fantasy games. But how you are seeing this uptick in terms of, let's say, data is one part of it. Second is also that a lot of people are putting their lot of money in, right? So how do you see that segment as a growing right now? And if you can maybe share some insights from that, okay, this is actually changing the way game is also being played in real life. Are there any implications of fantasy games and real games?
Not at all, to be honest. I'm glad that you
Hmm.
bring up this question. It's a very, very good question to talk about. So what happens is in fantasy games is that it is data driven. The fantasy game is data driven. For example, there is a match between CSK and Mumbai. You see Hardik Pandya, the captain of Mumbai, and MS Dhoni, the captain of Chennai. So in a fantasy game, in one of the apps, when you make one team, you make someone else the captain. You don't make MS Dhoni the captain because you know that he might be batting at some 18th over or 19th over. He won't be getting that number of deliveries to get those runs. So that's where there's some all-rounder will be having more importance than number one cricketer. For example, in a fantasy world, to put it up, to sum it up, in a fantasy game, uh, Akib Al Hassan or Kyron Pollard will be more valuable than a Virat Kohli sometimes. So that doesn't tell you anything at all about the game. So the game itself and the fantasy game, there's no real comparison between the two. It's in fantasy game is still in the game where it's kind of a very much like an entertainment where you put in these are the players playing, you give suggestion, you win some money because of your skills, and that is a little data driven. So what happens is that put your mind while you join that team or make that team, but when you're watching this game, when there is an India Pakistan game, you don't use your mind to watch that game, you use your heart to watch that game. So I think that part of the game should always be like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very valid point right now, given the circumstance also of this, fantasy game is picking up in a very extreme pace in India, and the real world game is different, right? So I think that's a
Yeah.
good point for people to also differentiate and remember. So yeah,
Exactly.
Krishna, you have a question?
Gaurav, I want to come to you as an individual now, right? If you were not doing this, what would you be doing?
I'd be teaching in some university. I'll be publishing some research papers. I'll be helping the society to grow, as they say in India, but they don't do that. It's all about just using more number of research paper and adding it from for your promotions. I'm being very
Hmm.
blunt out there. No way we're helping. So I want real research to be there. And if I
Hmm.
get a chance and I get time, I want to go to real research and do something for my country. Yeah.
Makes sense. Also, Gaurav, could you give us kind of an idea? How do you manage your financials? Because this is like gig economy, right? Events do not happen every day. It's also a seasonal business, right? So, how do you manage your financials throughout the year? How are you planning this?
Very important question again. So what happens for me that I have not left the profession of teaching. I
Ah,
still-
okay.
yeah, I go to my university. I teach. What happens is that I'm glad that I've got a university which is very flexible and in a way that I don't want to say that, but they, again, to make you guys understand that we are also the brand ambassadors of our university, because we take, kind of somehow we promote the names of the university in different states, where, because kind of faces of university, not just me, there's some other people around doing different things. So it works both ways. First of all, they become a little flexible to you, because you can follow your passion, and you kind of, when get opportunity, you make sure that you become the face of that university. So it goes hand in hand. So it helps me. So I do have a stable job, but at the same time, my stable job looks like a pocket money now, in kind of, so what we normally get in IPL. To be really honest, so the money that you get
No.
in this field is huge, but yes, it kind of becomes a little gamble, like, because you don't know
Yeah.
what
Hmm.
you're going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
doing next.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of MCs been doing this for years, right? Like since the time I've grown up, I still see some of those MCs, hosting some of the events. What do you think is a lifespan of a MC? Is there a range to it, or is just open?
There is age to it if you belong to India. It's a sad reality. Outside India, even in Pakistan, there was a cricket show that is going on. It's a very popular. Wasim Akram was one of the guests. I don't remember the name of the host. It was all about cricket. That's it. They were talking about cricket, don't glamour. So once you associate glamour to this profession, then it becomes age driven, and once you make it ace driven, so you can't go forward for a long period of time. In Australia, they don't do that. That's why you see some great commentators, some great the game going for a long
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
you see now it's all about the young people, and I'm afraid that at one point, when once you go 40 plus, and it's got just a bit of pressure on you to look young, to make yourself fit, and it's the secondary skill of yours that becomes more important than your primary skill. So that is
Hmm.
that is that is the sad part of
Yeah.
our country, and I'm really hoping
In
that it
fact,
might change.
I was going to ask you this question because this is one observation which I have had when I see IPL matches, at least, right? I personally feel that MCs have now become a part of the entertainment element of the IPL. Do you think this is true, or you have a different thought process to this?
No. I agree with you. Now it becomes like they're becoming the cheerleaders of what's already happening. That's not your
Of
job at
course.
all.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that that's happening because MCs have now started, making themselves the heroes of an event. You are not the hero of the event. I am not the hero of the event. Virat Kohli is the hero of the event. I am just a supporting cast, and I should do my job well. Imagine a movie where the supporting cast starts behaving like he's the star of the movie, then he will do blunders. So that's happening in our industry. That everyone who is holding the mic, or everyone who has the ability to speak, is thinking that he's the hero of the show. He's not the hero of the show. We are just supporting characters. We just have a role to play. You just need to play your role and give the rest to the superstars of the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Gaurav, I want to go back to your research point, which you mentioned earlier, right? That you want to contribute more on the research part. So
Yeah.
I'm sure, since you're aware on the education side right now, a lot of things are happening in AI right now. Like lot of papers are coming in, lot of
Mm.
different approaches are coming in, but mostly are coming from China or US, right? So if you can maybe tell like two, 3 points, right? Forget the application part or like computational part of it, but in the research also we are not somewhere closer to what we can, given the kind of talent pool India has, potentially like a very large talent pool. Where do you see, like, where are we lacking right now in at least the theory part? And if you can maybe think on like, 2 3 ways to solve that, what would that approach look like, at least from your side?
All right. I'm not sure if I'm quite the perfect person to tell you that, but then first of all, that you mentioned about the growth of AI and how important it is now in the field of research. So in
Yeah.
most of the thing in India, we are consumers. We are not
Hmm.
really, producers of something. Be it the the successful mobile apps, be it though normally we have not developed anything. I mean, we have, but not at the scale at which China and US have developed doing it. So we are
Mhm.
mainly consumers of it. So it's a mindset, it's the educational system. I'm not saying our educational system is the poorest in the world. Definitely we need to catch in, and when we want to be at the speed of the developing countries, the developed countries rather. So that's where I
Yeah.
think uh, the way we have been taught at the school must change. The innovation, the research part of it should come as early as possible. And we are a big country. We are a country of so many people, 1.5 billion now. So I think we should be very selective about the people we are taking for one particular course or one particular program or system. So that should be less number of engineers, according to me. I know that some of the
Mhm.
people might disagree to it. There should be less number of engineers in India, but there should be more qualified engineers.
Mhm.
Just, having a BTech and you call yourself engineer, that's not how it should be, to be honest. And exactly that is how I can say about the doctors as well. So it
Mhm.
has to be very specific. And you mentioned about data, and I have to say that data driven thing should come to this world rather than going to the sports world. So this is where you have to be specific. You have to look at these big stars of the game, and then you have to come back to say that all right, these are the things to we need to make sure that the research becomes the most important. In India, what's happening is that you get promotions, um, by the number of research paper you publish, and of course the
Mhm.
experience that you have. So there's almost like competition as far as publishing the research paper is concerned. I know plenty of people around who are who have thousands of research papers, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
They're of course of the good journals as well, but they're of no use because you are not applying anything to it. So if it is of no use, then there's no way publishing those research papers. There's no way country can get benefited from it. So I think we should do a little bit of meaningful research, less number of research paper, but truly meaningful or innovative for the country. That will help rather.
Right, right. And I think one thing I also sort of, I spoke to a bunch of researchers off lately. One of the things I realized that the West has a lot of like research mindset as whole, right? Ki like trying to invent things, reinvent. That loop is very strong. Where in India, as you also called out, let's say the focus is more to publish versus great papers to come. So like in focusing like a mediocre work, we can just keep pushing more work and say कि हमने
Exactly.
इतना तो
Just to add to that, that is why you see there is even more number of research or research papers in Pakistan, in
oh, good.
say Bangladesh. Where are they in the world map as far as the development is concerned? So you see the
Yeah.
countries that is not doing that well actually doing good in publishing the research paper and not good in research.
That's very interesting, I think, correlation. But and by the way, Gaurav, since you have studied maths for quite a long time, right? If you can make so again, I'm a very big fan of mental models, right? So I keep trying to experiment with different mental models. What is that one mental model from, let's say, topic or subject of maths that you generally think is very much applicable in everything I could do in life, or anything that you personally a big fan of, any theory or any sort of mental model from
Okay,
maths?
first of all, I'm not going to be talking about very basic subjects like the differentiation or integration. That's a school level thing. So it is, of course, used. So a little advanced, maybe something that I am doing now right now, computational fluid dynamics. Fluid
Mhm.
dynamics is still a very, very trendy subject. Might look like an old subject, but once you use that computational word before it becomes trendy again. So I think for me, it is definitely computational fluid dynamics. I'll say discrete mathematics is something that is very much related to the computer because mathematics is not mathematics without computers now. One can
Hmm.
say that I'm a good mathematician and it doesn't know computer. It doesn't make any sense. So math,
Hmm.
50% of the math is now computer science. That is why you see mathematics people going and getting the software jobs, and even the
Right.
MCA students going to teach the mathematics. So it's just very complement to each other. So that is why I think the subjects that is taking computer science with it, like discrete mathematics, or maybe you have to say that this one more subject that I absolutely love is fuzzy computing. It's a computing,
Okay.
but it's not the strict computing. It's a fudgy computing or rough computing. These are the subjects that I love. Machine learning is also part of mathematics now. So
Yeah.
we have merged with computer science to survive.
Yeah, yeah. And I think since you mentioned about, let's say we produce a lot of engineers, but the quality of engineers is fairly less.
Yeah.
And for
Not only
somebody, it's a
engineers, I think quality of every like education
Everything.
in
huh,
India is not that high.
yeah,
To be
yeah.
just if
So
you're being blunt today,
but
then why not?
maybe essentially my theory is that because we are not very strong with fundamentals, like let's say maths, as a very core subject, somebody has to learn it early in their life, right? So, what would you say to people who are not, let's say, good at maths, including me, and if they want to get good at maths, what they can potentially do to reach from point A to B, from
You know what,
average
Jay?
to good?
You know what, Jay? There's two kinds of
But I
people in
want to
this world.
just no, I just even want to change this question, Jay, right? Like, why do you need to be good in maths? Like, you're already good at something else, right? Why do you want to be good at something which you're not? But
Just to
mathematicians are good
conclude
at it
what Jay
because
said,
they
you
really
know, there's
like
two
it.
kinds of there's two kinds of people in this world. One who loves mathematics, the other who have not realized that they love mathematics.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
everyone actually loves maths. So the thing is that that we have, there's so many sort of I'll say that you've taken maths in a very wrong way. You've said it's all about calculations and anything. Maths is the language of science, so it's like learning a new language, just a language which is a little technical. And I tell you, it's a lot easier than learning some JavaScript or maybe C++ or C++ is now easy or very basic. Python is one software also. So my point here is that from very early now you have to make our students realize that you have to be good at computers, because literacy will be the future illiterates will be the people who don't know computer, not the people who can't write or read. It will be about computer. So, and by computer, I don't really mean that you need to know languages, because a future AI will do the programming, etc. for you. You are not going to do the programming. So it's about going with
Right.
the trend, just knowing what is happening out there, the ability to learn, to make things, to model of things. That's where I think it is good at. And what Krishna said is that yes, it's fine if you're good at something, you stick to that, and you make yourself the best. And in Western countries, what happens is that they're only good at their subjects and they're completely
Yeah,
ignorant to other subjects.
yeah,
But in
yeah.
India, everyone, even the person who sells coffee can tell you, you know what, that equation that you put in your research paper is a little wrong, because that del f should be actually capital del f, not small del f.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about India.
So, Gaurav,
Yeah.
just going back to teaching now, one step closer to teaching, is there any one memory where you really think you were able to make an impact on a student's life? Any one fond memory you have?
All right. What happens that once you because we also speak, like, because we are commentators and we kind of speak. So first of all, there's just to make it a little last. Once you become a mathematics teacher or a mathematics professor, the first idea is that his communication must not be good, because normally maths and English don't go
Yeah,
hand in hand,
true, true.
maybe
Yeah,
communication.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
want to break that myth. So I'm very sort of not the best in the communication, but somehow I make it very easy for my students. And my aim is to break that sort of a gap between the knowledge and the way you
Hmm,
express it in
hmm,
mathematics. There is a huge gap in
hmm,
India between those two. So I want to make it very little. So what happens is, once because I teach plenty of MTech students. So once I was teaching one MTech student some part of mathematics, and he got fascinated by it. He was really doing nothing, almost like wanting to just get a degree out of it, and was
hmm.
so much like influenced by what I said, and he picked up data science, and now
Nice,
he's out of India and doing fine in
nice.
his life.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I
So
think this
But
just kind of inspires you to keep doing this more every day, right? Where you see that real
exactly,
impact
exactly.
happening.
When you go into the class and you see the faces of those my students, and tell you
Yeah.
I might look like a little old school, I forget everything. I forget all my
Hmm.
stress, everything. It's all always about my students. I love to see my students. So you look at their faces and you forget everything. So if you can inspire them, and these are people who listen to you, and
Yeah.
there's not many people who listen to you nowadays
Like
because
true
everyone
influencer,
speaks.
right? You're
Yes,
actually like one of the true influencers. People who are influencing is great, but teachers are amongst the few true influencers who can actually have impacts in like
exactly.
long term for students' life.
Also, I'm glad that I come from a family full of teachers. My father is a teacher.
Oh,
My
nice.
grandfather is a teacher. My maternal side, everyone is a teacher. My all my uncles were teachers. My great grandfather was a teacher. So everyone is a
Lineage
teacher.
of teachers. Fancy. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so cool, yeah,
Like,
matlab.
Gaurav, then
But
I'm going to ask you the hard question, right? At least in India, teachers are not given the respect they deserve. This is my opinion again, right? Also,
That's
the
true.
pay scale is not that great. How have you all managed this then?
Mm, can you say that again? Last line, please.
Also, the pay scale for teachers in India is not that high. Like in the same place, if I were in a Europe and I were a teacher, I would earn better. But if I were in a like city, like country like India, I may not earn that much better, right? How are families of teachers managing their lifestyle?
Very tough to manage. My father was a I was a teacher, and to be really honest, and I don't want to like show it up, but the initial part of my life was not really that privileged one kind of a thing
Hmm.
because struggled down there. So I probably would have done the same if I don't do commentary and all. So it's a sad reality. But I think the story is a little different, just a little different for university professors and
Ah,
not the teachers. The
hmm.
teachers
Yeah,
that are very less, and I don't know why because I was listening to my grandmother, and they were saying that at their time they used to get staff quarters. There were servants for
yeah,
them.
yeah,
It's all
yeah.
IAS. They were treated
Hmm.
almost like an IAS back then. I don't know
Hmm.
why that trend has been left out, and teacher are. I mean, people respect. You get respect. Students
Yeah.
come and your feet. It's nice. It's nice, but yeah, Pascal, it still is a
But I
problem.
think if people are listening to us, at least the decision makers who are listening, I think they really need to revamp the pay scale for teachers. I think they're
Absolutely.
completely
And
underpaid.
to be honest, and again, being blunt, and to be honest, the market or the number of people are not that huge. And that's why the people who can make the change don't really want to make the change because this will do nothing to your vote bank. So you have to think beyond your vote bank, of course.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
makes sense.
Gaurav, I have one question. Since you're spending, like you are interested in that intersection, when you have a lot of knowledge on what's happening with the real world, let's say AI coming in, there is a real risk of like, traditional jobs going away. There's a massive shift, like, around the corner. And while you also spend time with students today, right? Maybe who have like an insane gap of knowledge, application, or, who are just not ready for tomorrow. For example, let's say people who are listening to this, pod today or later on, and if they are students, or if they're even a working professional, what is your like one sort of maybe input that what they can do potentially to have a stand, like in coming times, like let's say with AI coming in, what are like potentially skills or like some things they can pick up that will be still relevant, let's say in few years, because right now there's a job risk which is very real for a lot of people. So how can maybe people approach that problem?
Yeah, first of all, AI has done a strange thing. Jay, you will also agree with me that we thought that it will take there is A,
Yeah.
B, C, D kind of jobs. You take the first A, it will tick the box of A category, but it is done, it will tick the box of the D category. And that is, it has taken the creative people out of the equation. You see AI writing
Yeah.
films, see AI writing stories. Suddenly, AI has become a graphic designer, so it's very tough, also because I do a plenty of music. I know that
Mhm.
music is also getting affected by AI because now you see Kishore Kumar AI version of tu aata hai ab neendon mein, or whatever the song is. I mean, the point is that sound very funny at one point, but it's a serious issue. So I personally think that make AI your enemy. You have to make AI your friend to go with it. So anything that you do, any courses that you do, It has to be AI friendly. You have to say that it's almost like, because I come from Odisha, it's almost like buying potatoes, because you put potatoes in each and every curry we do. So it's almost, AI is almost the new potato for us guys. So you have to be with it. You have to take that important call. All right, you might be good at something, but you know this is something that you want to be. Plus AI should be compulsory for you.
Yeah, I think AI has become kind of part of every aspect of day-to-day living. Gaurav, with this, I had kind of direct the last question from my side for the day.
All right.
If you're into books, what is your most favorite book? And second, who's your most favorite mathematician and why?
Yeah, I'll choose to answer the second question first, and that is, to be honest, there's no better mathematician than Sir Isaac Newton for me.
Acha, okay.
And it might surprise you, because the physics people will say there he's mine, he's mine, he's mine. But to be honest, that Isaac Newton himself said that the after the invention of differential calculus and integral calculus, physics was invented. So it is almost like, um, the Newton really made it up for the world to know. So Einstein followed it up, but there's no one. The one equation that we don't use now. Uh, you can't say that the reference has not really come from Sir Isaac Newton. So for me, definitely he's gonna be my favorite. And talking about books, I love reading a lot of philosophical books as well, fiction, non-fiction, both. But most of the time, it's philosophical. But recently, I'm not just one book, but of course, recently I know it's a very famous book, but I recently started that the biography of a yogi. I really like the book, so I like people to read that, maybe to know different aspects of life. So I think
Yeah,
it has to anything that makes your life simple, be it the books, be it the movie, anything that makes your life simple. I think that's where my interest has always been.
Yeah.
makes sense.
And Gaurav, last question from my side, right? I think by the time we sort of, actually learned that you are a professor, you are a, somebody who has can great in academics, you are a commentator, you also write songs, and you have been like a more of an
So we
explorer
have a short
across.
industry, music industry here, but glad to manage to write a few songs which has touched millions. I have to say, if I do my own advertisement.
So yeah, somebody who has been like experimenting with bunch of different stuff, right? If let's say somebody who's 22 today, okay, and they are just going to enter in the sort of a adult journey to say, right? The adulthood starts once you're out of college. What are two, three things that you sort of picked up late in life? They can potentially pick up early in their life. Like it can be personal or professional, any sort of skill, any sort of behavior or whatever. Like that can compound so much for them.
I think one thing is that it is always important to look at the bigger picture. And I realized towards the late part of the 30s, 20s, in fact, that I needed to look at the bigger picture. I always looked at the the local solution of a problem and not the global solution. So I think you look at the bigger picture, and you see what is going to be happening after 5 years, 6 years. So that's how you need to take your decision. Yes, I'm kind of a person who's lived for today, and so I realized that you can't just live for today if you have to survive in today's world. You have to think about tomorrow. So maybe not just career oriented, maybe some financial investment that you need to do early, or maybe the other thing, of course, is to look at one particular skill and to focus on that skill first, and let the second or the third skill of yours become secondary. So what I did is I gave equal importance to all my skills, which is not a very intelligent thing to do, to be honest, because you give
Right.
importance to one of your skill first and you be pro at that. The rest of the skills, all right, fine. If you have different passion, you can follow that. There's no problem. So that's what the two things. One is that you need to look at the finances, not necessarily earning, but yeah, if you're earning or if you're getting some money, then put it in some kind of investment or do something, so that you can follow your passion. The second is, of course, not a bigger picture thing that I'm said, and the third is really focusing on one particular skill and not trying to become jack of all trades. Three things.
Right. So essentially, first, once you master one skill, then maybe look at, let's say, the closer family of trees, right? Or skills that
Exactly.
can come, complementary to that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Makes sense. But I think today was like, one of the conversation where we spoke about so many different angles. And it was just like, rapid
Almost
fire
like
of
my
sorts.
career.
Sorry.
Almost like my career.
Yeah, I mean that's what it happened, right? Okay, we are touching on this, we're touching on this topic, we're catching up on that topic. But it was super fun, Gaurav. Thanks for doing this, and like really appreciate you sort of sharing all the sort of the hard questions of teaching, of like and stuff like that. So thanks for doing it. And if yeah, Krishna, if you want to have any closing thoughts.
I think it was just smooth, like you said, right? Sometimes it's just poetic. Your career journey seems poetic at this point in time, at least for people from third party lens.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah,
for doing this. Keep inspiring and stay in touch. Thanking you for attending this. Thanking people who kind of came online and listened to the questions. If you all have any questions for Gaurav later on, also feel free to shoot. Gaurav would be more than happy to kind of answer those for you all.
yeah. I'll just end the stream. Huh? Thanks for joining in, everyone.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you,